join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we will get our meeting started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to everyone. Those of you that are here, those of you who may be watching remotely, it's good to see you all and be seen. So we have no special recognitions tonight. I assume we'll have some next month, but I know we've had people doing great things, so we'll catch up with them next month. Next up, I will list the additions, corrections, and/or modifications to the agenda. Those include 7.01, attachment to agenda item 11.14, approval of July 2023 financial statements. 7.02, updated policies added to agenda item 11.12, approval of section G and section H policies. 7.03, addendum to agenda item 11.11, approval of personnel items. 7.04, agenda item 15.03, K-12 Math Comprehensive Program Review, postponed until the November regular board meeting. 7.05, addition of board item 11.29, approval of purchase of premises identification signage. That takes care of that. Next up, 8.0, public comments. It's during this time that we provide an opportunity to have citizen comments in an effort to maintain an open and respectful dialogue with our community. The public comment session is not the appropriate forum for addressing individually identifiable student and/or personnel matters. Therefore, due to privacy laws protecting students and employees, comments about these matters should not include personally identifiable information about particular students or employees. Members of the public, staff, and students are encouraged to utilize established policies and procedures for offering suggestions or addressing concerns and complaints prior to bringing the issue before the board. Please be mindful that the meetings of the board, including your statements at the podium, are broadcast and that you are responsible for any public comments you make. In lieu of a public statement, you may choose to submit your comments to the board in writing. Also, due to time constraints and the need to complete the primary responsibilities of our meeting agenda, we cannot respond during the meeting, so you will receive a response from us in writing. We're always available to have an open dialogue outside of our meetings and can be reached by email or phone using the contact information on the Parkway website. I will call on speakers in order that you have signed up, and when you come to the podium, I'll ask that you reintroduce yourself and explain your relationship to Parkway or with Parkway. And in fairness to all the speakers and to keep our meeting running as efficiently as possible, I'll ask the audience to refrain from any applause after each individual speaker. Tonight, I believe we have 4. And you'll each have 3 minutes to come to the podium and share with us what you would like to do tonight. So those 4 are, and you can, when you hear your name, the first person hear your name called, you can come right on up. But I'll just let you know the order. It is Sarah Dull, Julie Wyatt, Moira McCracken, and Megan Lewis. So we'll start with Ms. Dull.
Dr. Marty, Mr. members of the board. My name is Sarah Dull. I am a Parkway resident and a mom of 3 boys. I stood before you guys last spring and shared a bit about our journey parenting a child with dyslexia. It feels very fitting that I'm back in front of you tonight in October, which is Dyslexia Awareness Month. You guys were a very gracious audience last time I spoke. I know Mr. Todd attended the dyslexia simulation that we mentioned, and Churchill is holding another simulation soon, November 14th, and I hope that more of you can attend. The district has made great strides addressing reading instruction since I last stood before you. Piloting Benchmark Advance in K-5 classrooms is a huge step. You have also adopted NWEA as an assessment tool to provide insight into student achievement. I actually just got an email with my son's scores the other day. The reading specialists have all been trained in Orton Gillingham so that they truly understand the science of reading and how it impacts their students. These are amazing steps in the right direction, but now more than ever, we need to continue this effort. Before our 3rd child came along, I actually was a 3rd grade teacher in the Brentwood School District. Like many of your teachers, I was a working mom trying to do my very best for my students. There were just never enough hours in the day. When my district would mention implementing a new program or assessment, I would panic. How will I get to go through these new materials? How will it mesh with what I already do? How will I fit one more thing in? What will I do with all of this data, and what do these scores even mean? I was passionate about teaching to the very best of my ability, but new things were overwhelming, and in order to get over that feeling, I needed support. I want to let you know that your Parkway teachers need support too. They need time. They need to understand why they are being asked to change what they have always done. They need training on how to use these benchmark advanced materials that are just going to show up in their classroom. They need coaching when things don't go smoothly with the implementation, and they probably won't go smoothly. They need training on how to use the information they receive from the NWEA. The data is only valuable if they utilize it to inform their instruction. That takes ongoing training and time. If your teachers are not given the support they need, no true change will take place. Your best efforts will not translate into improved student achievement. Teachers are always a school's biggest and best assets. Please arm them with the time, training, and support that they need to implement these amazing new programs and ensure that all of our Parkway students can read. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Julie Wyatt.
Dr. Marty, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, and board members. My name is Julie Wyatt, and I am the mother of 8th graders at West Middle. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month, and I am happy for this opportunity to address the subject with you and ask for your help to positively impact the Parkway students. Dyslexia is a condition that impacts 1 in 5 people and is a neurobiological condition that affects how a person processes written language. Students with dyslexia require explicit and systematic instruction in phonological awareness, phonics, spelling patterns and rules, which has been termed structured literacy by the International Dyslexia Association. Not all struggling readers have dyslexia, but all kids with dyslexia struggle with reading. You will notice I might use both terms. Through the new assessment, the NWEA, more secondary students will finally be identified with reading struggles. But is our district prepared to meet those unique needs? It must not be overlooked that the NWEA will produce a need for effective intervention for these students. The administrators and staff in the secondary buildings need the time and resources to gain the necessary knowledge and have the tools to help these students who have gone so long without intervention. These students are inevitably behind their peers, having struggled for years, likely not knowing that their challenges are not their fault. That one's hard. That one's hard for these kids. Sorry. They may not feel adults believe them, that they are really trying. Through the data from the NWEA, they will have their answers. Identification of the problem is the first step towards a tangible progress for these students, but only when the students' community of educators understands the struggles with the written word. All secondary educators need a thorough understanding of dyslexia, and any reading struggles affects the social and emotional health of the students, assuring that the student reading and learning do not have to be riddled with stress and anxiety. Educators are in a position to convince these students that they understand this disability and believe in the student's potential to work with it and learn successfully. Professional development will be the key to our children's success with the new data provided. Please ensure their teachers have the time and resources they need to enhance all children's learning. Thank you.
Next is Moira McCracken.
Hello, Dr. Marty, Mr. Todd, Mrs. Hopper, and the other distinguished members of the board. My name is Moira McCracken, and I am the president of Parkway National Education Association. I love to hear about the exciting things that are happening in our schools. Our members are doing their very best to create engaging lessons and meet the needs of all students. Unfortunately, wonderful things are not the bulk of what I'm hearing from our members across all grade levels right now. Many have shared that from their perspectives, morale is at an all-time low among certified staff members. Members have reported to me that what they are feeling now, exhaustion, frustration with falling behind, trying to hold on until the next break, those are feelings that they typically don't feel until much later in the school year. I've spoken with people who are considering resigning mid-year or retiring early because they just don't see that things are going to improve. Our certified staff have many needs, but what I hear most often from members is that they need time. Elementary staff appreciate that they have more self-directed plan time, but that time is taken up immediately with state-mandated testing, IEPs, collaboration, prepping for up to 5 subjects each day, as well as problem solving for increased student behaviors. Middle school staff have the least amount of plan time among all levels, just the bare minimum that the state requires. Despite this, they are working to serve the needs of increasingly larger class sizes with more IEPs and 504s. Elective and encore teachers also manage their building duties, which in some schools results in them actively engaging with students all day long, with their only break being a 30-minute duty-free lunch. No time to use the restroom, to plan, to decompress, or to process student needs throughout the day. High school staff are struggling this year as they adapt to their new building duties that have taken 90 minutes of what used to be self-directed plan time. Staff have made big changes to be prepared for their students without giving up even more valuable family time in the evenings and weekends than they already sacrificed. This means giving up what are known to be best practices. That's a huge ask for our dedicated staff. What's more, the plan for next year is to take an additional 45 minutes of plan. To put it bluntly, doing this will be devastating. Staff at all levels already don't have the time to do all that is required of them. Instead of taking time, staff need more time. In the 2023 State of the American Teacher Survey, the RAND Corporation found that teachers worked an estimated of 53 hours a week, which is 7 more hours per week than the average adult. And only 24% of teachers were satisfied with their total weekly hours worked, compared to 55% of other adults. Their conclusion was that without improvement in teachers' hours and working conditions, it is unlikely that there will be large shifts in teachers' well-being or intentions to leave. We're all here for the students in Parkway. We all want what's best for them. Best practices are best for students. Educators who are rested, have work-life balance, and feel supported are best for students. As we move to the future, we need to stop asking our educators to do more with less. Thank you.
Next up is Megan Lewis.
Good evening, Dr. Marty, Mr. Todd, Mrs. Hopper, and members of the board. My name is Megan Lewis. I teach 8th grade history at South Middle. My husband and I are expecting our first child in about a month. The intention of my presence here today is to address an issue that has arisen as a result of a new policy in our contract. Article 15, Section C4 states, a certified staff member will receive advancement on the salary schedule commensurate with their most recent evaluation, provided that they have worked a minimum of 131 days during their year of leave. Upon return to the district, the certified staff member will be placed in a position for which they are qualified and will be considered for reinstatement to the same position or an equivalent position from which they are granted leave. I implore you to change this policy because it will discourage women from taking their full FMLA leave that they are legally entitled to, disproportionately affect female teachers, and undermine women's dual role in society. Section 105 of the FMLA regulations prohibit the following actions: discouraging an employee from using FMLA leave. I realize that an attorney was consulted on both ends of the bargaining table. The prohibited conduct of the employers includes discouraging employees from using FMLA leave. Is that not the essence of this new policy? To discourage teachers to not use their full FMLA leave, otherwise they won't move a step. For example, if I'm taking 4 personal days prior to or alongside my 12 weeks of FMLA, I will have worked 131 days per my due date. provided that I do not miss any more thereafter. Knowing this, I may be discouraged from taking my legally entitled leave. I may say, I only want to take 10 weeks because I'm the only caregiver, because I'm the only caregiver who has a sick leave to take care of the baby when she's sick. But life happens. What if that 2-week cushion doesn't provide me with that cushion that I planned for? I could have a death in the family, or my baby could need care for an illness. Another scenario might be that I take the full 12 weeks and I just roll the dice and I end up sick. I come to work sick. And it was just 2 to 3 years ago that we were strongly discouraged from coming to work sick. Parkway was named a top workplace for women. This is listed on our website among other accolades. While I do not have data on how many females work as teachers in the district, the national average is 74.3%. With such a large population of teachers being female and the implementation of the policy, I would venture to guess that women would begin to re-examine this as a descriptor as a teacher in Parkway. It is my understanding that the district was intending to keep teachers in the classroom with this policy. While I understand that that is definitely a priority, I would say that being able to have the 12 weeks of legally entitled leave to take care of my child would be among a higher priority. I implore you to change this policy because it will discourage women from taking the FMLA leave that they're legally entitled to, and disproportionately affect female teachers and undermine their roles in society. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next up is the approval of our agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for October 18th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up is communications. Those include the next regular board meeting, which will take place on Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. here at the Parkway Welcome Center. Next is our board and superintendent reports. Matt, start us off.
I really don't have very much that's profound to share today. Cross-country meets since the last board meeting, painting a senior's parking space, and actually going to get a tour of a sustainability project at one of our elementary schools. But we did have a teaching and learning committee meeting, and some of the evaluations will be brought forth tonight. So I'll leave it there.
Few things this month since our past meeting. On September 28th, a lot of us were there for Project Parkway. It was a great meeting, learning more about the vision of a learner. Ray McNulty had some great ideas and insight into the future of Parkway. As Matt mentioned, I was also at the TLA subcommittee. We'll talk about more later on some of the program evaluations. On October 12th, myself and Kevin attended the operations subcommittee where we looked at all of those policies that we approved earlier, as well as looked at some other interesting things in the operations world. And later that night, attended the Mayor's Cup, Parkway Central versus Parkway West. Parkway West came out victorious. It was a great night. My daughter had a wonderful time. She was there to help with the coin flip and everything. It was wonderful. But other than that, it's been a fun month and busy month ahead of us.
Indeed. Earlier this month, I was able to attend one of the elementary school multicultural nights. It was at Claymont Elementary, and I think between 15 and 20 countries were represented. It was really just a beautiful night. There was singing, there was dancing, there was food to try. And of course, it just continues to remind me that at Parkway, there's fantastic extracurricular events for all the kids to take part in, and I really enjoyed that. Excited to see that the school year is off to a great start, and am enjoying watching it all unfold. Tiffany.
So within the last, 2 weeks since our last board meeting, I also attended the Project Parkway event at Central High School. Central High School, right? Yeah, Central High School. Mm-hmm. It was a great event. We were put to work again. I appreciate being able to come to the various community meetings that Parkway has and have my voice valued. So I would encourage you for our next one to come on out and make sure that your voice is heard as well. In addition to that, I did attend, it was a virtual attendance of a mental health night where they talked about the Screen for Success tool. It was insightful. And in regards to mental health, it's an issue that is across, it's across this nation. It's affecting many of our students, many of our teachers, many of our staff, and it's important for us to understand the tools that we have to make sure that all of our students, staff, teachers are being well taken care of. I also wanted to mention that progress reports are coming out if you haven't already gotten them. Parent-teacher conferences are coming out. I know I have one scheduled for tomorrow for my kids in high school, and then next week for my middle schooler. So I encourage parents, if you have not already signed up, I'm encouraged that there are signups for our schools were almost filled. So that means we have a lot of parents that are participating in that. And I encourage you to make sure that you get involved as well. And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
So as Jeff mentioned, I had a big Thursday with Mr. Spector last week. The operations subcommittee meeting was actually far more interesting than it sounds. It was enlightening to learn about some of the things that we're doing as far as transportation and some ideas we have, as well as to pour over some board policies and shape them as best we could. We just met a couple weeks ago, and sometimes it's hard to come up with new material for these. And I kind of rack my mind thinking about, things I've done in my family and how we, viewing Parkway through that lens. And, I was just thinking about today, just in my family, and I've got 2 kids, and they're just in 3rd and 6th grade. And today, we had to film a video for a talent show. They had to attend school all day. They had to do homework. They had to read for 20 minutes. They had to go into a Parkway North trunk or treat. They have basketball practice, get ready for tomorrow's field trip, and also get a good night's sleep. And we're just, 4 people, 2 kids that aren't even in high school yet. And it just amazes me as I think about, families bigger than ours, students older in high school with band and sports and everything else. And I just don't know how anybody can do it. And I just continue to be awed and amazed by everything that students in this district are able to accomplish in a 24-hour day.
I would echo that, Kevin. I have a sophomore at West High, and we've been engaged in a lot of activities, including a number of homecoming events throughout the district. Most of the homecomings are on different nights, so students from each school could go to the homecoming of another school. So that was a nice opportunity. In addition, also to the Project Parkway Committee meeting and the Mayor's Cup that was also mentioned, I have also attended a Communications Advisory Committee meeting that was held on September 29th. This was an opportunity to talk with individuals in the communications field so that we can gain some expertise from them, as well as then a religious leaders meeting that we met on October the 11th, another advisory group that meets with the representatives of the school board and the superintendent. These are religious leaders who are within the footprint of Parkway School District, who help and aid us as an opportunity to discuss a variety of different topics and issues that are occurring within our district. In addition, on October the 4th, I attended the Missouri School Board Association fall meeting for our region. We're in Region 7 in Parkway. It was held at Ladue High School. It was a wonderful opportunity to meet with other board members throughout St. Louis County and the extended areas within the state of Missouri. And so we talked about governance, had some refresher courses with governance, as well as meeting some new people that I had never met before within the different school boards around the area. In addition to that, I attended the St. Louis PLC, which is the St. Louis School Board's Professional Learning Community meeting on October 6th by Zoom. We were focusing there on legislative matters, and it was very informative, and that those will continue to be ongoing. On October 10th, I attended the Brownies with the Board at the Special School District. It was a wonderful opportunity to get to meet in person the other board members on the Special School District Board of Education. We've had several new appointees to this school year, as I serve on the governing council for the special school district. And we appoint we don't appoint, we vote on applications to the school board for SSD. And so it was a nice opportunity to meet them in person, since all of our meetings have been by Zoom. So that was a wonderful experience as well. And also the TLA subcommittee meeting, which was a nice opportunity to get a preview of what we'll hear tonight with some of the program evaluations that are going to be underway.
Thank you. And downside of going last is, once in a while, like tonight, every single one of my items I have on my list has already been talked about. But I will echo Tiffany's remarks about Project Parkway. It's a wonderfully organized effort to seek and obtain the input of everyone in our community. And we really did have a great turnout. And so I want to thank the public that did come out, the community members, not just Parkway employees or board members, but people just, even people that don't have kids in Parkway anymore, but still care about the school district, taking the time to come out. So I appreciate that. And I'll also mention the mental health webinar that we talked about, that Tiffany talked about. Erin Schulte and her team did a great job with that. And that is available if you weren't able to see it. If you reach out to any of the board members or Ms. Schulte, she can get you that link to the webinar, and you can see it and learn all the great things we did. So,
well, thank you. I'm going to share some things that I have been involved in that maybe some of you didn't have to be involved in. Today, I actually had the pleasure of being on a panel. The Missouri Chamber of Commerce had a 2-day workforce development conference at the St. Charles Convention Center. And I and the Superintendent of Lindbergh and the Superintendent of Liberty on the Kansas City side were on a panel facilitated by Chris Gaines from EdPlus. And we were able to tell our stories. And so I was able to tell, and Jennifer Stanfill was in the audience, so we can tell our story about Spark and the number of ways we're trying to link our students to have real-life opportunities, Spark and other opportunities. So that was wonderful, and it was great to get some questions from the audience. Last night, I had the pleasure of being at the 35th anniversary of Character Plus at Edgewild. At Character Plus, of course, we're engaged. We have 21 or 22 schools, state and national schools of character. But 35 years ago, a group of superintendents, Parkway wasn't an initial group, but shortly after joined, and that certainly has grown, and it was just an amazing night to share with many founders and then people who have continued the work of Character Plus. And it was just a wonderful evening. On Tuesday, with some of my colleagues, we had a chance to work at the food pantry, monthly distribution day. And our food pantry is thriving. Lisa Tomich had the opportunity to come for the first time, and she was just blown away by the organization. We have some wonderful volunteers, in particular, Linda Geesteen and Heather Davis are just wonderful, plus so many more. And there was many volunteers from some of the local churches, and then some of us, our team. And it was just wonderful to be a part of that. Again, it's just such a great opportunity for us to connect with some of our families. Also, 2 weeks ago, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Sorrento Springs. We had earlier a celebration of the 75th years of Mason, but this is another celebration. I was not able to attend, but I know some people did. That was a great celebration, and the parents, the staff at Sorrento had a wonderful time. We have an organization called OASIS, a senior volunteer program, which is coming back. We have a new director, Ken Prebish, and he is organizing. We had some training, and I welcome anybody who's got time, and you do not have to be a senior, but that's kind of the audience, who come into our schools and read with our students and do literacy work, but also partner in kind of a good role model. So I think we're up to about 70 volunteers now. It's coming back after the pandemic, and we're very, very excited about the new volunteers. Homecoming is over at all our high schools. We survived a lot of activities, and that was certainly a wonderful time, a lot of spirit in our schools. And let's see. Like I wanted to say, Kevin and Tiffany, you're going to hear from them a little bit later today, and Carter Snow were over at Jefferson City yesterday working on the Success Ready work continuing. And if anybody wants to get up tomorrow morning at 6 or 6:15, I'm riding buses tomorrow morning at the central area. So if you want to join me, my first venture out in the buses. No, it's a very, I always enjoy that, and we'll be doing that tomorrow morning. And,
Want to share what bus route so the kids are warned?
yeah, I don't even know what bus I'm gonna be on.
Imagine those lucky kids that get to ride to school with the superintendent.
Yeah, isn't that great? And I just want to say that in the news, of course, you've heard that, and I had a chance to just talk to her briefly today at the conference, but we have Commissioner Van Egan has announced that she's going to retire. But it was great to have her say that she's going to stay very, very active. Her retirement is announced, but she's not leaving until next summer. But of course, we'll be watching closely who the replacement may be. That appointment comes from the State Board of Education. So a lot going on, and I'm always proud to represent Parkway at some of these activities. We like to say we're active in the area and the region, and it was just the last couple of days has been a pleasure to have people represent. You come up and talk about their observation of Parkway and some good things we're doing. So it was my pleasure. So thank you.
Good to hear. Thank you. Next up, we have a pretty average length consent agenda, and we've all had an opportunity to review those items. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the October 18th, 2023 board materials?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay. Is there anything to be pulled or action or closed? No? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. We have no action items tonight. We have no policy review, no reports. However, we do have several work sessions. So at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Kevin Beckner, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and Jeff Lackey, our Coordinator of Fine Arts, to join us.
Well, thank you very much, and certainly appreciate Mr. Schindler, Mr. Spector, and Ms. Hopper, who all were part of the subcommittee, who contributed some of these questions as part of our program evaluation process and seeking continuous improvement. Every 6 to 7 years, we evaluate areas of our program. So tonight, we're presenting the initial conversation of 2 of our 3 program evaluations coming out of the area of teaching and learning. For Mr. Seltzer's sake, I hope that this is both new material and more interesting than expected. So with that, we'll go visual arts with Jeff Lackey.
Thank you. Great. Good evening, President Jeff Todd, Debbie Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Marty, and Ms. Stover, and the rest attending tonight. As Dr. Beckner said, Fine Arts is going to be one of our program evaluations. But as you probably know, Fine Arts is a really large department. And so as part of the staff decided we would split the department into 2, and we would first focus this year on our visual arts, which would be things like art, painting, sculpture, photography, et cetera. And then next year, for the next school year, 24-25, we would focus on performing arts, which would be more your band, choir, orchestra, theater, et cetera. So the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee met to provide input on the questions of the study you're about to see. And the questions and the topics were divided into 4 areas. So you'll see up there you have topic 1 is the curriculum and assessment. Topic 2 would be instructional practices. Topic 3, resources and learning environment. And topic 4, advocacy. So if we break each one of the topics down, we have some guiding questions for each. So for the first guiding question in the curriculum and assessment, how are we sharing our curriculum to reflect our diverse student populations? So how are visual arts being incorporated into personalized learning? What opportunities are there for students to do cross-curricular or combined work with other courses? Are the courses that we're offering in Fine Arts still relevant for the students that we have in our classes today? And are the upper level classes available for all students to participate? Guiding question 2, is the curriculum being used to ensure common goals and learning outcomes? So what supports primarily are in place for equitable grading and assessments? And then question 3, what is the sequence of our courses? So what are our enrollment trends both at the building level and the district level? How is the structure of our middle school program supporting the high school program? And how did the sequence of high school courses best meet the students' needs in the visual arts program? I keep hitting the right button, no line. For topic 2, we have instructional practices. What are the high leverage instructional practices of a visual arts educator? How do we hire high level educators, and how are those teachers supported in both their evaluation and feedback from principals? And then how are instructional practices being used to meet the needs of our visual arts using the equity lens, a diversity lens, inclusion, and accessibility. For topic 3, resources and learning environment, how are art departments ensuring student safety, including tools and chemicals? Meaning at the grade level, meaning the different kind of media that they're using, what are the safety and protocols, and how do we communicate that best to parents and students? Are resources for visual arts distributed equitably across schools? As supplies keep increasing and costs keep increasing, how are the budgets supporting that increase? How are the maintenance of our equipment being maintained? Are we using the proper technology? And what kind of community supports are we getting? What kind of community engagement are we reaching out to? What technologies are being made available for students to use? Particularly, what are we missing? We use a lot of technology in visual arts, especially with our digital platforms, but what might be the gap that we can still work on? How does the learning environment support our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility? And then how do certified and operational staff support the health and safety of our learning environment? It's always fun when you have a chemical spill or chemicals left on the counter, just kind of really defining whose role is that, how do we best support each other so that we are really keeping the student safety in mind. And then advocacy was our last topic. Under advocacy, how do we compensate art teachers for additional responsibilities? This has been a question that's been ongoing. Our art teachers set up for art shows, they mat for art shows, they take down, they're present, and it comes up, and so we thought we'd ask that question. How does our district art shows promote and celebrate Parkway visual arts programming and our young artists? As you may know, we have building level art shows, we have regional level art shows, we have district level art shows. We'd like to ask the community, parents and students, how did those serve, which serves best, and how can we make improvements to that? And how might the district increase promotion and recognition of our visual arts through media and communications? And then finally, how do we highlight the value of visual arts education in Parkway? So I want to thank the subcommittee for their feedback and want to ask if you have any clarifying questions.
I don't have any clarifying questions. I think those guiding questions are outstanding. I was glad to see one of them about resources, making sure we're properly funding the needs of classrooms and students. And I would just say that we hear occasionally about districts having to cut funding for different programs, art being one of them. And I'm glad that we're taking this opportunity to look at what we need, what we might need to add to it to make our program even more satisfactory or an even better experience for our students. So thank you for the work you're about to undertake.
Jeff, I would like to ask one question.
Yes, absolutely.
Could you just give a brief overview of how does the evaluation take place? Who's involved? How long will it take? Do you use external resources and things of that nature?
Absolutely. So on the first day back that teachers came back, when we had our district level meeting, I had all the visual arts teachers from K to 12 meet there at Central High Library, where we gathered together. We posed the question, Nathan Tyson, who's here with us tonight, posed the question with our teachers, asked them to come up with what are some questions how do we evaluate, how do we better meet our kids, our students, what can we do to improve? Which was always an interesting question to ask the teachers, but they came around to about, I want to say, 12 topics at the beginning of that. So then I met with a smaller group of 10, and then we took all the comments from those teachers and we boiled those down to the 4 topics you're seeing today with some guiding questions. Actually, we're meeting tomorrow to look at the questions that I presented to you today to determine actually those questions. So through surveys, through the parents, through teachers, through administrators, through students, pulling data from the district, we can reach out to consulting agencies and research as needed.
Thank you.
Jeff, as you heard me say in my report, I was at the workforce development, and so this question truly came up today. How are we, particularly in the fine arts and visual arts, supporting students who may have a career in front of them? I just wonder if that would be a question in the advocacy area, because we know from our Hall of Fame, when we have our Hall of Fame, many of our students have gone on and been renowned in the area of arts and media and other areas. Some of it started in the visual arts so I just wonder if that would be inappropriate. And I say that because that question came up today. How are we focusing across the whole content or curriculum to ensure that our students are finding ways that they can see a career or see a path that may be beyond, their participation right now.
For sure, as we look through course guidance, course sequence,
Yeah.
we can look at career pathways for sure. All right. Thank you very much.
I'll
I'm
just
sorry.
share, though, I'll share this
Yeah.
from the committee, too, just the fact that I attended the St. Louis Artist Guild's art show this past spring, which brings students from all around the region together. And I was very impressed by a number of Parkway students from all the schools that participated, and kind of lining up with supporting them in the future as one of the students won a scholarship from that art show, too. That's from Parkway. So nice to see that. It's fun to see that, and I'm really impressed by the Parkway's art department.
We have some very, very talented people and it's always fun going to those art shows in the schools and at the Queenie at the end of the year.
And I will say we have to give kudos to our art teachers as well, because they bring out the creativeness of our students. I actually have several pieces of my son's artwork from elementary school, still framed in my house. And a whole box full of ceramics. And he's well graduated by now, and I'm like, okay, I guess it'll just go with him when he leaves the house one day. So we still have all of that. And it just brings back great memories to go through it and look at it and see who the teacher was and all that kind of stuff, so.
All right. I look forward to doing the research and get back with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Dr. Beckner's back with us again. And joining him is Aaron Crawley, our coordinator of ELA Social Studies and High School Reading Intervention.
Yes, and thank you for all the kudos to Jeff, but also our teachers, because they do an amazing job, and we do have a fantastic fine arts department. We're very proud of all the work that they do. Several years ago, we conducted a targeted evaluation of our middle school reading intervention program. Then, as you are all well aware, due to all of our conversations over the last year, we've done quite a bit of work at the elementary level around reading. We heard a little bit about that in our citizen statements tonight. And one area that we are also now targeting is our high school reading intervention, and that's what Aaron Crowley is going to share with you now.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Marty, Mr. Todd, Ms. Stover, Ms. Hopper. Everybody's doing well this evening. As Kevin said, this is targeted and probably a little bit different than Jeff's in that we are partially wanting to respond to everything happening in our K-8 reading, and also just me moving into this role in the middle of the pandemic. So last year was the first year that we were able to actually get our high school reading specialists to meet together since I stepped into the role. And they had lots of questions. They'd kind of been operating as separate entities based in their building. And so we worked together to create a common goal for this targeted evaluation. We wanted to identify the most effective structures and practices in reading intervention specific to high school in order to support our students reading below grade level to experience rapid and sustained reading growth. In order to do that, we asked many questions. We surveyed counselors and assistant principals in the buildings to find out what their take was, what was going on in the buildings, how we could help them. I think we've whittled down from approximately 30 questions to 8. And we are enlisting the help of EAB, which I don't know what that stands for. Thank you, Educational Advisory Board, to help us with the research. So this first set of questions is really about the program itself that the reading specialists run that is central to what we do. So the first one, what are the most effective program models? So we're thinking district-wide models. School-based structures, things that happen within their building, and intervention practices and strategies, things that they are doing when they're working with small groups of students or one-on-one with students, that will help the struggling high school readers make reading gains. The second question is really about all of the processes around that. So what are the effective processes for identifying students who have reading struggles and needs, monitoring those intervention practices that we put in place, and adjusting our intervention supports based on how the students are performing? What is the ideal size, student group size for intervention to be successful? And then what is the ideal ratio of reading intervention specialists to students who need reading intervention supports within a high school? So right now, we are not a case management staffing model, and so we are looking to see if that is something that is happening nationwide. The second set of questions, our last four, are really about supplemental things that our reading specialists are wanting to be involved in, but needing more information. So what supplementary supports need to be in our reading-rich content area classrooms, like science and social studies and English, to help struggling readers access the content and continue to practice and improve their reading skills? What impact does reading ability have on credit attainment for high school students? And what role, if any, should the reading intervention program have in credit recovery? Credits are a unique challenge for intervention programs in the high school. What is the correlation between reading ability and our SEL or non-academic behaviors? A lot of the things that we've been addressing as a district around mental health are questions that our reading specialists have as well. And how, if needed, should those behaviors be addressed within the reading intervention program? And then lastly, thank you to the board subcommittee for helping us with this last question. What opportunities exist outside of the school day for Parkway students to receive additional reading intervention services? And then this is our small but mighty team. And we are very blessed to have a lead reading specialist, Sarah McMillan, who works K-12. So she's bringing all the expertise to the team across the board. Our 3 high school reading specialists and our 2 progress monitoring coaches. And then questions.
I'll ask a question. Just thinking about some of the public comments that were made tonight. Is there a professional development piece in this?
Yeah, we originally had one question around professional development, and then as we were working through the questions, what our realization was that every single one of those questions will probably have professional development as part of a solution or part of what we find in the research for that. So our plan is to add professional development in each of the 8 questions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Will we, in this program evaluation, or do we ever survey students or parents to find out their perspective? Am I getting the reading support I feel I need, or do I feel I'm struggling? And do we compare students who say they feel like they're struggling against their grades, their performance, just as a...
Yeah, we have not done that yet. It would be interesting to work with Nate Tyson to come up with some questions around for our students and parents, and then figure out a way to deliver that. And how would we identify which students we're targeting and which parents we're targeting?
I think that'd be valuable.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
I'm not sure, Anna, was there a question about the connection with special education students who have?
There was not. So right now, the way that the reading specialists work is that we are typically serving students who do not have reading needs already addressed in their IEP. They may still have an IEP for other reasons, but typically if reading needs are written into the IEP, the special education side is actually helping with that or taking care of that. We do obviously lean on each other for supports when we need to and work as a team, but typically that has been the division. Mostly just because we don't have the capacity, I think, to really, from the special ed side or from our side, to cross over and help as much as we like.
Certainly there's communication that exists and ongoing support.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I mean, there's actually communication, obviously.
Yes, communication is ongoing and going well. It's more about how are we trying to meet all of the student needs that we have in front of us with the staff that we have.
Would you mind refreshing my memory? In the subcommittee meeting, we talked a little bit about reading intervention at the high school level was not being supported at some of the high schools, and now they are?
Yeah, historically.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Absolutely. So, and that's not in the slides, so I'm going to stop looking at them. Historically, we've had a reading specialist with different FATEs in certain high schools. So South High, North High, and Central High have had a 0.6, and then the principals have kicked in a 0.4 to help supplement to make a full-time person. So a lot of times that 0.4 FTE is really them teaching 2 intervention classes. And then the 0.6 is a lot of the reading specialist job needs to be more flexible because they're working with small groups and not having classes assigned. West High did not have a reading specialist until last year, and we used ESSER funds to pay for that. We actually struggled to hire one, which is also a nationwide issue, is hiring reading specialists. So we had a 0.4 English teacher who picked up and Sarah worked with her to fulfill the needs for our students for a 0.6. This year, we had a 1.0 for all schools, but we could not find 2 new hires for West and Central. We had a retirement in one of our buildings. So we have a split between West and Central simply because we couldn't hire. So, does that answer the question about? And I don't know historically why those decisions were made. That's just what we had.
What are the current processes for identifying students that need this reading?
Yeah, so before this year, when we adopted NWEA, we were using the SRI, Scholastic Reading Inventory, as our screen, universal screen, for all 9th and 10th graders. And then based on those results, the reading specialist would look at it and then do additional follow-up diagnostic testing if those scores indicated need. Those can be, depending on what they're seeing, oral reading fluency, a basic reading inventory. Usually we use Jerry Johns. They have materials from a company called CORE. They also have the CTOP for dyslexia screening. And then they just really work with each level of screening to decide if they need more data. And those are the pieces that we use to identify.
I know in the subcommittee, we talked about, as you just brought up, that it's hard to find people for these positions. And looking internally is how can we maybe incentivize some current staff to get their certificate in this area. So I know that's something you guys are looking at. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you very much. It is a program that is more difficult than just a test. It is typically a 2-year program with a practicum.
Would you, on one of the slides, it showed your, part of your team are the district progress monitoring coaches. And we've got 1 for South and West High, and then another one for the other 2. Could you just explain real quick what their roles are? What
I'm
do
going to
they
turn
do?
to Dr. Becker for that.
Yeah. So progress monitoring coaches we've had now in Parkway for, I believe, something approaching 15 years. They were originally designed to support our progress monitoring intervention practices and really come in and help teams coach, help coach building level teams on how to do a problem solving process that's effective. And by that we mean, like, you have a student who's struggling, or maybe groups of students who are struggling. How do we identify what the root cause of their struggle is? What data do we have available? So if you go back 15 years, a lot of the work they were doing was literally, we didn't have robust data systems. So it was, how do we even get the data? How do we even know which students need help? How do we know? So they were doing a lot of resource providing over time, particularly through the significant budget cuts we had after the financial crisis. Many of those positions were eliminated at the high school level. Rather than keep full-time instructional coaches, they said, these people are providing such a valuable resource, we want to keep these folks. Over time, we have also reduced those positions down to 2, but they do support the 4 high schools. Between the 2 folks, they split their time between the 2 schools, providing support, particularly around data use, particularly around student performance. They might help monitor students' grades and help teams figure out how that they can best support their students. So a lot of the work they do is really on data, problem solving, and helping students who might need particular interventions.
Thank you.
In the reading specialist world, we see them as invaluable partners. They are working side by side with the reading specialists weekly to whatever data that they need to pull and putting it in a way that helps them be able to do their jobs better. So. Anything else?
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and we are, I don't think we're done with Dr. Beckner yet. But you were joined by Dr. Bess.
I was just stretching, take a little walk. So we're excited to present the work session tonight on Project Parkway and our strategic planning work. Thank you so much. I know most of you were, I believe all of you were in participating in our focus groups during the Project Parkway meeting on the 28th. Also want to thank Mr. Todd, Ms. Hopper, and Ms. Matt Franklin for being part of our Project Parkway steering committee and the work that we do to prepare for that. So we want to give you a brief update tonight on what we're going to see moving forward. So we've seen this slide multiple times in this group. We know that our Project Parkway work has three pieces to it. One is complete, and that was our 23-24 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, which we have been monitoring and working on so far this school year. In fact, just this last principal meeting, we had them bring their CSIBs, and we organized our meeting around different parts of our comprehensive plan. We then simultaneously, we know we're working on our vision for a learner. We did get more feedback on that, and we're excited about the direction that's going. All our feedback around that has been very positive from the vision venues we had at each of our schools. And we're really focusing in now on the development of our 5-year plan. And we know that this is a big year to develop that and set the course for Parkway's future. And so that's what the first Project Parkway meeting this year really focused on. In terms of our vision of a learner, I know we spent much time with the board talking through this. The feedback I mentioned was very positive. When we did the vision venues, we offered a 4-point Likert scale for people to say, like, how well does this capture our vision for a learner as a community? Basically, how did we do after all this work? It was a 1 through 4 scale. We had 0% of people were at a 1, 0% of people were at a 2, about 22% of people were at a 3, and the remaining well over 70% said this fully captures our vision for a learner. So while we still might have subtle tweaks, language, words, generally speaking, many of the comments were about the fact that this really captures the whole student, and it really captures what our community values in a learner, that we want them to be the things that you see up there. Not just do well on tests and not just be happy, but really a whole package of a student, that they are connected, empowered, critical thinkers, who can be resilient and overcome and strive. So really happy with the work that we have going on there. So then we had the Project Parkway community meeting, which focused around how can we start to conceptualize our 5-year plan. And we're really in the stage of surfacing ideas, getting our community's input. We're not yet to that point of refining or narrowing. We're actually more in broadening. And all of first semester this year is about surfacing ideas before we go broad to our community and say, here's what we've been hearing in many face-to-face conversations. So the steering committee, I mentioned the 3 of you who are on that, but we have a really fantastic group of committed individuals who are volunteering their time to help lead the Project Parkway work. And this group spent a ton of time. In fact, we got comments during the meeting that said, we usually don't work our volunteers this hard. This is really exhausting, which we do appreciate all the folks who've stepped up, whether they be parents, former parents, community members, teachers, other staff members, just really happy with the participation we've had there. That group spent their last meeting looking at 3 things. So one, we know that we have our vision for a learner and we got feedback, and they sorted that feedback and really looked through and see, hey, what changes might we need to consider here? The second group looked at, we're not just looking at our vision for a learner, but also our vision for us as a district. In our current iteration of our strategic plan, we call those commitments. What do we commit to doing to ensure that our students end up where we want them to be? So we've gotten some initial feedback around that, and the steering committee sorted that and is starting to really filter that work. But then the third one that really connected directly to the community meeting, which again, thank you for recognizing all the people who came to that. We had 140 participants, which was fantastic and a really good turnout. The steering committee designed the questions that were asked in the focus groups at Project Parkway. And so really appreciate the involvement and all the thinking that went into developing those. So Dr. Holman-Bess will take it from there and share where we are and some of our next steps.
Thank you, Kevin. And so, as Kevin stated and was already shared, all of you were at Project Parkway, and so just acknowledging the work of the community during those focus groups. These were the questions that we asked, and there were some warm-up questions just to get us talking about what's Parkway doing well, what makes our kids want to come to school, and then we jumped into some pretty meaty and heavy questions with the community. So these are those questions, just to remind you. I'll give you a moment just to read the slide, since you all also participated. And so what we've noticed in our leadership meeting was that there were some preliminary themes that are starting to emerge from the focus group questions from the community meeting. And those preliminary themes are diversity, equity, and inclusion, facilities, personalization of learning, staffing, and student-centered approaches to us solving some of our problems. And really, it's not problems, it's opportunities. And what we did notice in the data was some of these very same things were listed as things that we are doing very well, and then they were also listed as areas that that our community would like to see us improved. And so, again, small sample size, but this is where some of our preliminary themes are coming from, just from that initial batch of data. So what's next? We are about to, Thursday, start engaging our students in focus groups. We've restructured the questions to be student-friendly. We will be getting feedback from students in 5th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade between October 19th and November 15th. SAT will be conducting those interviews at the various schools. Each school will get a visit from a SAT member, and their principals are welcome to sit in with us when we do those focus groups. Again, the goal there is to collect their feedback on what they think we're doing well and what opportunities we can continue to provide and how we can get better. We'll also start our staff focus groups. There are 8 of them. And they start on October 24th. We are conducting them by area after school, and then asking our staff to come and participate with us for about 90 minutes. The one on November 15th is with you, and includes our Board of Education that evening before the board meeting. And then those focus groups have been randomly selected for students and staff. And so we really did a true random sample based on our area of students, and then we'll go and meet with those kids and get some good information and feedback. The same is true for staff. And then Kevin may have shared this earlier, but if not, like since September 30th all the way up until about November 17th, we've asked our steering committee to connect these community network groups, where they too will be asking the same focus group questions that we asked at the community meeting within their networks to, again, get more feedback, so then we can go out on a broad scale to the community and say, this is what we've been hearing. What are your thoughts? And so that's what's next. And thank you. What questions do you have?
Thank you both very much. I will just say I've been involved with Project Parkway long before I was on the school board, and I've always appreciated the planning and in being in the steering committee. Just I see it from all different angles, and I'm just appreciative of the work that goes into getting where we get at the next at the Project Parkway meeting for the entire community. And remind me, because we advertised, come to the next one. Do we have a date for the next one?
We do. January 31st, according to Dr. Beckner. I have pulled my calendar.
Okay, so January 31st, mark your calendar.
Isn't that the, going to be State of Our District meeting?
Correct.
Correct.
Last year was February 1st, so we're right around that same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
And maybe just explain that, because that's really started to work last year, State of District.
You explain what we did with State of the District?
Well, I mean, why are we coming back to that? I mean, because we really initiated the State of the District in February 1st of this year.
Yeah, so one of the things that we felt was important was to really share openly with the community what our current status and current reality is. And so to help our community be a good partner with us, we need to share information with them that they otherwise may not have or may not have access to get the feedback that we need to really continue to move the organization forward. And so purpose of State of the District is really to give the community an opportunity to provide us some feedback. And that's where we started February 1st of last year. And so moving forward, we also want to continue to provide that opportunity. We're really at a critical turning point as we set the stage for our 5-year strategic plan. And so we want to continue to make sure that we have community input and feedback as we go through that process.
Kudos to the board, by the way, because it was the board's suggestion that we do a State of the District. It just so happened to coincide nicely with the beginning of Project Parkway, that we made it a full-scale community meeting rather than just a presentation to the board. So thank you all for your leadership in pushing us in that direction.
Oftentimes districts will bring in outside facilitators. We did that initially in Parkway with Grant Wiggins many years ago. And now we have our own internal people leading this. Obviously, it's not that Tiffany and Kevin don't have other work to do. But I do think it's valuable to, once we're at this stage, thinking of our third generation, that we could do this locally. And I too, Jeff, thank Kevin and Tiffany for their leadership and kind of doing things differently. This is a different path we took the last time. And so I'm excited about this work and excited that we can handle this ourselves. Again, we could bring in people, there are people around the country to do this, but I think it's great to do it internally and have our own leaders leading this work.
And I think Ms. Stover might have shared with you already all of our dates, or she's going to. We certainly welcome any of you who want to sit in on any of those student focus groups. You have the dates, you have the time. I know tomorrow we have 4 tomorrow, so we're really excited to get going, but you have all those dates and certainly welcome any of the board members to attend.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have no special meeting tonight, so may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you all for attending.